Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Today, I'm talking with Henry McCrory. He is the founder and business development lead at Creative 3 and the guy who turns conversations into clients. With years of experience in sales, partnerships, and commercial growth, he focuses on building relationships, spotting opportunities, and making sure the right deals get done. He's known for being direct, likable, and relentless about doing things properly, not just quickly. Henry works closely with brands to understand what they really need, then helps shape the offer, pitch, and plan to drive revenue. If you've ever wondered how great marketing becomes real business, Henry is the bridge you're looking for. Henry, it's great to have you with us.
Yeah, Chuck, it's so good to see you again. I love my time in Las Cruces in New Mexico when John and I were out a number of months back. We had to get back, and it's just lovely to chat with you today about all things business, which obviously means life as well, and how we can lead a life of significance and affect the world around us.
Yeah, I appreciate having you out here. For our American listeners, Henry's in Belfast, Ireland. And if you think his accent is bad, you should listen to the other guy who came over, John Heenan, my other friend from Belfast. Even Henry can't understand him.
Yeah,
so I think you're pretty good. We won't have to translate for you, but I'm doing a podcast with John, and I'll have to translate from Irish to English or from farmer Irish to English.
Yeah, get one of those Zooms with subtitles, and then maybe that'll help.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's great to have you guys here, and I look forward to having you back when the government's open. We can show you all the fun stuff in the Oregon mountains and around us. We got a lot of great stuff. So, well, today for our audience, we're going to talk about how to grow without killing your business. And that might sound like what? It sounds like you kill your business by not growing. Well, I can tell you, Henry and I were talking before we went on air. One of my businesses, one of my 14 or 13 businesses, was a fulfillment business pre-Amazon in the it wasn't pre-Amazon. It was actually the mid-1990s. So it was about the same time, but it was for business to business. And we bought a little business that was losing money for like 11 years in a row. We bought it for nothing, and basically nothing, and grew it from like 1 million to 9 million in 3 years and had to sell it in a fire sale. And the reason was because we had grown not too fast, but we had grown out of balance. And we want to talk about that because people think you can grow too fast. I don't think you can. I think it's really hard to grow fast. But Amazon proved you could grow really fast. The key thing here is there's a whole bunch of things we have to keep in balance while we grow. And there's processes and procedures for making sure that happens. And Henry, I bring that up because I know today you guys, you mentioned this last year, you guys have kind of gone through a growth spurt. You moved back into Belfast from the outskirts and you got noticed again. And so you're going through some of this pain. So tell me about your growth, a little bit about it and what your pain is. We can do the fun stuff as well, but what's your pain?
Yeah, the pain, we actually had a bit of a dip. We nearly lost our business back in the recession of 2008 to 12, and it was like a slow death. And we obviously run a digital agency here in Northern Ireland, and we had to restructure ourselves back towards actually building the business up from the ground up, which we did up until about 4 years back. And we had this, and this is what I want to get into as well. We got into this whacked idea that we had a dream which the building you've been in. We wanted to run our digital agency, which was going well, above a trendy coffee shop. We would have people come in, have beautiful coffee, do this, do that, and do the other.
It was gorgeous. I loved it.
Yeah, no, everything about it was gorgeous. Unfortunately, it didn't work.
No, timing is everything, right? Hello, we got ourselves a nice big fat recession and all kinds of other nonsense. COVID.
Yeah. Oh no, COVID came and it really sort of cleaned us out.
Yeah.
But the good thing is these things will either help affect you emotionally in the negative, or that you can actually take the information and the hurt and the pain and actually restructure it towards growth. So over the last couple of years, we've been working our way back towards after the coffee shop debacle. We knew we needed to get back into where the conversations were happening. So we need to get back into Belfast. And now at that particular time, we had maybe a team of 5 or 6. So now we've doubled that back again. And I think it was you that actually says a lot of people that when they're thinking about growth, when you get more work, they just throw a body at it. There's no process, there's no visualization, what that person looks like. Do they fit the culture? Do they have the skill set? So we tried to implement that over the last sort of year based on the recession nearly going down, and then the coffee shop nearly putting our lights out. But we've used this experience and the pain that we are having at the minute. We've actually just had 3 new starts in the last 2 weeks.
New employees.
Yeah, 2 media buyers and 1 appointment setter. So now that we've got a double team, so the organization side of that has got a bit. By the way, Chuck, normally in digital world, and maybe some of the listeners will appreciate that, is that agency world sometimes is really chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have a lot of moving parts, whether it be design, websites. We have a full agency, so we do near enough everything from white label marketing, everything.
Oh, I know. I had 2 businesses that were not marketing businesses. They were marketing support services.
Yeah.
And so we are adjacent to the branding and ad agencies and the marketing agencies and all those for like 13 years. And it is just crazy chaotic and sometimes.
Yeah, so I delved into, I think it was Gino Wickman's Traction book, which nearly destroyed me. So I'm actually going to go back and reread it now with fresh eyes and fresh understanding what it is we're not a big agency, obviously, but we're a reasonable size for Northern Ireland. So the pain points we're facing at the minute is all the things, because I'm the business development part of it, and you're also the boss, and you know yourself, you're the go-getter of business. You're the organizer of business. You have to get paid for said business. You have to pay your bills. So we brought a lady in who's our studio manager about 6 months back, and she's been fantastic from the digital world. And she's helping us quite a bit in regards to restructuring. But again, the challenge that she has now, because she was into that in a team of 6, she's now a team of 12. So she's having to grow. And maybe, Chuck, with your experience, but a lot of the times when you're scaling a business and you know you need to scale, but for some, when you're leading a team, they're come for a day's work. They're maybe not thinking, I need to scale myself organizationally, structurally, communicationally, and all those sort of things. So yeah, it's a good problem to have at the minute. But yeah, we're trying
But you remind me, what I'm hearing as you're saying this is it's raining and we have to patch the roof.
Yes.
And that's kind of how we do it too often, most often. We didn't think about these things while we're not growing.
Yeah.
But while we're growing, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to hire these people. And it all happens kind of ad hoc and chaotic because it's raining and we got to get the hole in the roof patched. So we do it in a way that is not permanent and is not the most helpful way to do it. And every business does this. And I want to back up to something you said earlier, because I think it's really important to cover these things that when you're starting out with growth, we tend to, I'm trying to form words for it, but we hire quickly and we fire slowly as a standard. And when we're hiring, we don't have a process that we're willing to go through because we just got to get this done. And it harkens back, as you were talking, I pulled up this graphic that I created. People think I'm smart. I'm not. I'm actually kind of dense and I make all kinds of mistakes, but I learn from them. And then I come up with illustrations and tools and things, and people are like, wow, you just pulled that out of your no, I actually had to do that in order to survive. So here's what I learned from that business I talked about right up front, where we went from 1 million to 9 million and had to sell it in a fire sale because we were growing out of balance. That's the problem. It's not fast growth that will kill you. I hear that all the time. Fast growth will kill you. Slow down. No, it won't. Growing out of balance will kill you. And so if you hire the wrong people, That'll kill you if you don't have enough cash flow. So I'll just bring this up. Here's what happened to us. Here's at least, there's more things than this, but here's a bunch of things that you have to create balanced growth. You got to have, if you're, let's say you moved back into Belfast and you got all this fancy square footage, but you didn't get any customers. Well, then you're out of balance in terms of your square footage. You got too much of that. Or if you have too many customers, I've had people who had too many customers and didn't have enough production. Or you buy a lot of machines or a lot of production space and you don't have enough customers, or you don't have enough cash flow, or you don't have the right partner vendors because you're growing too fast, or you don't have the right people. Any one of those or any combination of those not keeping up with the growth will put you out of business. And when I did this for myself, it was cash flow, and I realized this is like giving myself the finger. I gave myself the finger as we grew in that fulfillment business. Everything grew except our cash flow. And we didn't have the sense to go out and actually get a loan or get money from somebody else. Well, I'll give myself credit. I actually had the sense, but I was a minority stakeholder, minority owner in that business. And somebody came to us and said, hey, I'll drop, $1 million or $2 million on you guys to fund your growth. I want 30% of the business. And I said, great, let's do it. And the other guy wouldn't do it. And a year later, we were out of business because we didn't take that money. So this is the problem you're facing right now, is you've got to figure out how to keep all these things in balance. And what I'm hearing you saying is the staff thing right now has been one of those things that is you got to keep up with that, or it's going to hurt your growth.
No doubt about it. And one of the things that I've learned from yourself and the 3 to 5 Club is about what is the highest, best use of your time. And I know over the years that seemed to be like a thought over here that could never become a reality.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with the production, you're dealing with the staff, you're dealing with the cash flow, you're dealing with all those sort of machinery and all those sort of type of things. And we work in a digital space, and someone maybe would break a lens and it's £1,500, but maybe $2,000, and it's done like that. And you're trying to manage all those things. But what we've endeavored to do in the last 3 months, and it's harder for probably Chris than me, is that we wanted to actually strategically be part of the strategy that not just works for the business that we have, but it gives us the time and the energy and the creativity to work with each client as they go to work the strategy, to find out there is your target market. Let's go there, start with the end in mind, Covey. Then let's pull the strategy back, and here's the building blocks. And that's been a real challenge for us, because tomorrow, actually, we're out in 2 or 3 meetings tomorrow. And I know Christopher's going to get the twitches because he is a very creative, he's a hands-on guy. And that's what he identifies with. His strength is in what he produces. Whereas I'm trying to work at a different part of his brain, because he is quite strategic, but he's creatively strategic as well. And we need him off the tools. I don't know if that's a term in the States, off the tools, to actually be working on. And there's times we'll have to put him on.
Yeah, he shouldn't be making the chairs. He should be designing the chairs.
He should be designing
off the tools.
Off the tools. So we need him off the production line. It actually, him and I are spending time together. So he's having a bit of a challenge to get that round his head, because when something breaks over there, he knows he's got the skill set, the speed to fix it.
So I want to stop you there, because it just dawned on me, this is another thing that if we don't grow this thing, this will put us out of business too. Our mindset.
That's right.
He's your partner. And I know for years, when there were 4 or 5 or 6 of you, it worked just fine for him to be one of the chair makers, one of the tool guys. But he's growing, he's stretching, he's having to learn a new mindset. And that mindset has to keep up with your growth as well. So that's another one of those things that has to grow. And I see this so many times in businesses where even when a business gets to 50 or 100 people, or sometimes 500, the CEO or the founder can't change their mindset from when they started out. I think it was Marshall Goldberg wrote a book about what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if he didn't write a second book around this, but it's also about the people who got you here won't get you there. And so the person you were when you started this thing will not get you to where you want to be. And I would say most often, as I'm thinking about it, blinding flash of the obvious for me, that is the number one biggest problem in growth is that the business owner's mindset and habits do not change to fit the growth. So thanks for bringing that up. That's
Well, I can actually, if you want to delve into that, I can actually tackle that from a really personal experience. Because we were always in the agency world where it's all about the aesthetics, the look, the website look well, the brand look well, the design look well. We are transitioning from Creative 3 Media, which we are, and we still are, and we will have retained that, towards a new business called Surge Performance Marketing. So that's a very massive part of our future, because all the beautiful stuff that we have been creating over the last X amount of years is being lost in this mind-binding scroll, and we weren't standing out. So that's why we ended up planning to go more into the performance side of stuff. And I sat with the team about 6 months back, and Surge had no employees in any shape or form at that particular time. But I knew the mindset involved in our agency, and I also, because I'm out in the world with other performance marketers. Yeah. And if any of your viewers know Abby, your dog, we live in a agency world of Abby's. It's a beautiful dog. It's touchy-feely. She's lovely and blah, blah, blah. The guys over in the performance marketers are some of those wolves that you see up that mountain, or mountain lions.
That's
they will
right.
cut you to bits, because it's just about the result. It's about, I see food, I eat food. It's about me, and it's about no one else.
Metrics.
That's it. It's about, if I spend £5, I get 20 back.
That's
it's not
right.
About, I don't care about my nice website. I couldn't care what the website looks like. Bring me the money.
That's
Show me the money.
Yeah.
From that Tom Cruise film. And that's that. And I said to the guys, I said, look, there's a transition happening. And I'm hoping above hope that some of you guys can transition. But because I'm living in it and they're still in their agency bubble, most of them have not transitioned over. So I still retain, obviously, the Creative 3 business, but I've had to go and get mountain lions. I've had to go and bring part of the team, some guys who just think hook, story, conversion. Not this is what it looks like. Hook, story, conversion.
Yeah.
And it's that works, that resonates, bang. Let's measure, tweak, and change. Did it work? No. Why did it not work? And it's all this straight to market. Was the targeting off? Was the storyline off? Was all those sort of things that we now have to deal with. And that's been a challenge for some of them. So we've had to go and bring some other members of the team who just think conversion, that'll work, that'll not work.
Yeah.
That's what, so.
So I think this is really helpful in terms of that mindset I mentioned before, because I'm guessing a lot of business owners are really good at doing that with their product or their service.
Yeah.
They're figuring, what is the new hook? How do I make my chair look different this year?
That's
Did that work? How do I convert people? And they're regularly okay with changing their product or their service.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to have that same mindset for ourselves as we grow. And that's tougher than just changing my product. So what are some of the tools? We have a lot of tools I developed for myself to handle these things as I went through catastrophes like that. What are some of the tools that you're going to use or that you would recommend to help people manage the growth?
Planning, the planning side of it, the structural side of it, outside eyes, which we have. And I sat down with John and some of the guys from our own 3 to 5 club. And my first draft of a 2-page strategic plan went up in smoke, because in a nice way for the viewers, they're stunning people, but some of them very successful, and they were very, very helpful in helping me structure a 2-page strategic plan. And a lot of the times I have to have different plans for different things. And it's taught me over this last couple of years to think more strategic in my thinking from living. And it's not something you associate with creatives, by the way. And because we all are about creative, and it's the next shiny thing. So I've had to be more specific on being around 3 to 5 club, a 2-page strategic plan, Gino Wickman. I've at that didn't want to read it again because it killed me, because it challenged everything about my creative world. But he more or less basically said, if you have no strategy, you have nothing. You have no business. So I've had to go and learn and educate myself on to be more strategic, look at different models. How does that work? And to be honest, Chuck, that's really helped me, not just from a business perspective, it's helped me from a strategic perspective. When it's, in fact, I just read a statistic the other day that there's 300 new products come to market every single year. 5 to 10% are a success. And I delved more into it, and the 90 to 95% unsuccessful was lack of positioning of product, not knowing your market, not knowing,
just not getting in right in front of the right people. Well, I wanted to stop you there for a second because you mentioned a couple of things for our listeners and for our viewers. We do this on YouTube. So if you're not seeing these illustrations, go over to YouTube and listen and watch. But I showed that earlier illustration. You mentioned 3 to 5 clubs. We have 3 to 5 clubs in different places around the world for small business owners to get with other people who do what they do and be able to let their hair down and say, hey, I got a question. Because you can't do that with your customers. They want to think you know everything. And then you also mentioned this thing called
2-page. Yep.
2-page strategic plan. And so here's just page 2. I'll just tease our listeners with page 2. Again, I developed this for myself. It's not something we developed to sell on the internet. I needed to figure out how to create a simple strategic planning process because the 12-page or 20-page business plan was just nonsense. I don't ever do one of those. They just don't work. We got it down to 2 pages, and page 2 is really where the rubber meets the road. What are we going to do in 12 months? What are we going to do to get that done in the next 3 months? And if we got 3 months to do that, what are we going to do this month? And if that's what we're going to do this month, then what should we do this week? And that's page 2 of the strategic plan. It becomes very tactical in order to get this year's planning done. So just wanted to share that with our listeners. That's a great tool to help you manage growth. And we use it just in the day-to-day. We have used it for 20 years. It's a tremendous tool for growth. And then you mentioned planning, other kinds of planning. We talk about processes. Share a little bit about how you deal with processes, because those get blown up as you grow too.
Well, we've got various tools on, we have a Notion board there, and a PickFlow. We have a couple of different software packages, because this used to drive us absolutely nuts, was that we would get a job in, and maybe somebody, if we were white labeling a marketing company in, we were actually fixing their website, because a lot of people who come to us they just think they need business, but they haven't got a good website. Their social channels are atrocious. They probably don't have a tracking pixel on their Facebook. So we actually have to go back to the start. Whereas before we would have just went and started to market these guys. So the processes have been really, really helpful to us to say, right, okay, we know we're going there. Let us look at base level and what's your website like? What's your socials like? What is your profile like? Is it optimized does it send the right messaging? Is your website saying the right message? We see on a lot of occasions is that because people and businesses evolve, their website and their social channels are left archaic, and they may have had 1 or 2 services. And then you've probably heard this yourself. Chuck, I didn't realize you'd done that. I've only been doing this service for 2 years. I've been on your website 4 times.
Didn't know that.
I've never seen that new service once. So that has helped us to become more, right, let's go to base level and build. It doesn't matter if you've been going 10 years. We look at it from a structural point. What can we build on for here? It's okay us bringing different businesses in to do different things, but we have to build up the structure. When we're doing ad sets, we have to work a separate strategy for that. And a lot of the times, and you would have faced this more than me, a lot of the guys don't really know who their target market is. They maybe have an ideal client, maybe of who they would like, but we have to work out what profile, what do they actually look like? Do they turn $1 million? Do they turn 2 million? Do they, can you build a business at that? I actually spoke to a solopreneur the other day, and he asked me, how do I scale my business? And we chatted through some things. And one of the first things I had said to him, look, here's how I could probably drive your business to a new market with all these lovely people with big houses. You have been working your business at this level for the last 5 years. Do you have the services and the structure in that actually take
Yeah.
a big house on.
Yeah. So what I hear you talking about is that before you were kind of winging it. You were taking somebody wherever they came to you and you took them from there forward. And you'd find people at different places and you just work with them. And now I hear you developing some consistency
Yeah.
and saying there's a process. And we know that if we don't cover these things that we used to not cover before we get to what you actually came to us for, then we're not going to be able to help you. That process becomes really important for our listeners, from my perspective. Again, something I learned doing it the wrong way is that the reason we write down our processes is not so that we can feel good and we can put them on our shelf with our shelf help books to help our shelf look good.
Yeah.
That's usually why people do that stuff. We don't do anything with it. No, we do it so that we can actually have a consistency around our process. We know what our process is and we're going to run it because we know that that consistency is what develops trust. I've said this so many times, something that dawned on me just like 5 years ago. The number one asset every business has is trust. It's not people, it's not assets, it's not intellectual property. It's none of that stuff. If you don't have trust, you're done. That's your number one asset. And how do we get trust? Well, the number one practice to get trust is consistency. Say what you're going to do and do what you said. And every time I experience you, I get that same experience, that same great experience. And that's where process comes in. I don't like process. I'm not a process guy. I'm left-handed, right-brained, ADHD, dyslexic. I played in orchestras. I don't like process, but I love what it does for me. And I love that it gives us that consistency. So that's another thing you can do besides a simple little strategic plan to manage your growth. You need to have simple little processes to manage your growth and not a lot of them. It's just a few processes, a process for how we build the chair, a process for how we buy our chair parts,
Yeah.
a process for how we market this thing, 3 or 4 great written processes and then run them. So I'm sure you've experienced the difference since you started doing processes.
You actually put up the 2-page strategic plan from the 3 to 5 club, and I had noticed obviously at the top, which I've noticed because I've filled that document in, is that the rocks. And I had an interesting conversation with our studio manager, Aoife, who is a very vivacious girl, very excitable, very passionate about helping the business grow. And she came in and she says, Henry, we need to be doing this. And I mean, no, we actually need to be doing. I would love to implement that. I would love to implement that. And she brought about 4 or 5 things. I says, Aoife, see every one of those things. I absolutely love them. Implement one. Take one of the most productive things that you think about it, put them all down, write them all down, and think, here's a big rock that I would love. And here's me, work that, get that into our system, into our structure. Then we can build on that. For you, you're going to get frustrated if you lift it or try to implement that into, you're passionate about it. The staff will not be as passionate about it. They will understand it and potentially like it, but they would probably not implement it. But if you took that, and I think it was at Wickman and said that when you're implementing a process and you've went to I think at the 7th time, speak as passionately about it on the 7th time as if they're hearing it for the first time.
And as if you're saying it for the first time, because they are hearing it for the first time, aren't they?
Yes, that's right. And I've tried to get this through to especially we're putting a leadership structure into it, is that what you are saying, guys, mightn't be what is being heard. And I remember, and someone actually kicked back on me, and I said, look, and to do these in counseling terms is that, what am I saying? Repeat back, and what are you leaving with the information that you can implement? And someone said to me, I am not going to treat anyone like a child. And I said, no, you need to get that completely out of your head, because if the reason why you're frustrated is that what you're actually saying is not being heard on the other side. And if it's not being heard on the other side, it can't be implemented. So we have a responsibility to create better communication in a clarity, in a 1, 2, 3 step process that someone can lift from there. And that's the reason why you're frustrated. So change, because if you don't change it, you're going to be frustrated in 3 months' time.
Yeah. And one of the reasons, just on the other side of that, Sometimes we wing it because it feels more like fun to us as business owners. I already made that chair. Let me make it a
Yeah.
little different this time. And then next time I'll make it a little different. And the guy we sold chair number one to refers somebody to us and says, hey, this guy made this chair for us. You should get your chair from him. And the chair is completely different. And the owner thinks they're doing a great service because they're constantly improving their chair. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with constantly improving. But boy, too often we do things because we get bored, and you can't afford to get bored, which is what you're saying. You got to share this process, and you got to do this process for this customer with
Mm.
the same zeal and passion that you did it for the first customer
The first time.
150 people ago. And then when you find something that should change, good, change it,
Yeah.
but then keep to that until you're sure that you want to change something else. Don't wing it.
One of the things that we have seen this, and especially, and we have winged it in the past. But the key thing is, I actually came out of a meeting a couple of months back with one of our creatives, and we had the twofold thing to implement. And to be honest, we done this particular bit, not the standard we wanted to portray. And the client knew it, but we done something over here really, really well. And I come out and I said to the creative, what did you learn? Says, look, that seemed to go ahead. No, I need to find out what you actually learned. For me, we dodged the bullet
Yeah.
today. We got by on relationship is one thing we got because we built a rapport with the
Yep.
client. We didn't fulfill the brief. The reality is you winged it in that particular way and you done a piss poor job. The reality is for the next time, you need to go and research what went wrong over here, still be as passionate about this part of the job. If you cannot do this or whatever, you need to tell me up front. And this is one of the things I'm facing now, especially with the younger generation. They do want to lift the phone. They want to send emails. They want to send text messages, but
Yeah.
they won't lift the phone. And now I'm trying to get people, and it's tiresome and it's boring and it's time effective. But the reality is, if we don't fix that, we're destined. We don't learn from the past. We are destined to repeat it.
And all the more, Henry, when you start growing, it's one thing to wing it when you're getting one customer a week and you can make your chair in 3 days.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of, but it's another thing to wing it when you just hired 3 new people who really don't know how to make the chairs and you
Yeah.
got 27 back ordered for chairs. You better have that written down. And so the question is, when is the right time to develop your 2-page strategic plan and what we call your freedom maps, your maps that free you up to really be consistent, those processes? When's the best time to do that? While it's raining or before
Yeah.
it rains? And again, we don't have time. I don't have time to develop my process. I'm too busy making chairs.
Yeah.
Well, good
That's
luck
right.
with that when you get to the point where you can't make all the chairs and you got to hire somebody. Now you're winging it. So it's dual tracking. You got to make the chair and you got to write your process down so that you can train somebody else to do it.
Well,
So we're kind of
cohesion.
running out of time here, but you mentioned one other way in which you were having growth pangs, and that was hiring people. And so I'll kill two birds with one stone here. That is
Yeah.
another thing. If you don't hire well, that will kill your growth as well. Or if you hire too slowly. And frankly, if you hire too fast, even while you're growing, we always have more time than we think. I'll put this up and scare some people with this who are watching via YouTube. We talked about writing your processes down. This is an example. This is a more complicated process than I normally want to show people. It's 11 steps. Here's how we hire people. And we wrote this down before it started raining. So when we had growth, we could hire people based on this map and on this experience that we'd already had. We tested it before we had to grow. And we have this 11-step process that works really well in helping people grow. And we can just kind of drop the people into this process, and it actually takes less time than winging it used to. So I just wanted to show people that as an example of a simple process that you should have for how you make your chairs and how you order the parts for your chairs and how you market your chairs, market and sell your chairs, and maybe one or two other processes. Don't go nuts. That's where we get into problems. We think we have to map everything that happens. No, we should only map the things that are already broken or the things that are guaranteed to break in. That's going to be very few really important maps. After 20 years in business, we probably have 6 or 7 maps that we follow slavishly. And then we have other maps we develop for new things, but then they fall by the wayside because nothing's broken. We don't need it. So I just wanted to give people an example of that as well. Write your processes down before it rains.
Well, that was the main thing. We actually implemented quite a bit of that 11-step process to the point where when we were hiring the creative and the setter was that we had actually set some creative off for them to reproduce. Look, we're around this industry a long, long time, but we've done 3 interviews. We've actually done 3 separate interviews, and the last one was a more of a creative test, whereas we would never have done that before. We done the relationship side at the start. That was a good fit. We were very clear on the money's involved and stuff like that. Then we done a separate interview with Chris and I. Then we set them a creative, and we were just building a process up, which we would never have done stuff like this, Chuck. We'd have got a body and go and work. Whereas they checked us out, they got to know us, what our ethos was, our culture. Would they fit with the culture? Would they fit with the team? What's their communication skills like? Yeah. And there was one lady who was a complete standout, and she was hungry. And it was just so refreshing. But I know I wouldn't have done that without the 3 to 5 Club to say, what does that person look like? Don't just think about the creative side of it. Think about the culture. Think about, are they process-led? Do they have, structure?
And Henry, these are not things we think of when we are in the panic hiring mode.
No.
We get into what I call the fog a mirror approach. If somebody can fog a mirror, they're hired. Yeah. That's, are you a warm body? We'll hire you. It's too late. Yeah, you got a pulse. It's the fog a mirror pulse.
You're hired.
Yeah. So, all right, there's a whole bunch of other things that we could talk about, but I think the principle we want to come out with this on how to grow without killing your business is simply, you've got to figure out how to pull everything up at once. You got to pull up your production, your finances, your staff, your processes, your planning, your marketing. They have to come up at the same time. And if any one of them outstrips the others and you leave some other things behind, you're going to be in trouble like we were. You're going to have to sell your business in a fire sale or some other catastrophic thing. So that's the message from today is you can grow fast, but make sure you pay attention to all aspects of your business while you're growing, because it's going to be easy to leave something behind. And the second message is figure this out before you grow, before it starts raining. Patch the hole in your roof and do it really well before it rains. And then you'll have a great time going forward. Henry, loved having you on. We're going to have you back to talk about things like marketing and sales and fun stuff like that. But this was a fun time. Look forward to having you back over here in the States, and we'll do this again. We will be over on the America side this year for sure. Brilliant. See you then. See you soon. Bye. Bless you. Give a love to Diane.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.